In today's economy, do you think it's possible that the richest 1% of the population controls nearly half of the world's wealth? Do you think it's kind of difficult to understand? Hey, did you know that the combined wealth of the top 80 richest individuals is about the same as the total population of 3.5 billion people? It's pretty mind-blowing, right? Wow, these numbers really show how big the economic divide is, don't they? A lot of people think that having a ton of money is usually something you inherit or just luck into. But you know what? That's not the whole truth. Out of the elite 80, only 11 were lucky enough to inherit their massive fortunes. The other 69 individuals worked incredibly hard, showed determination, and came up with innovative ideas to build their own wealth stories. Larry Page, known as Lawrence Edward Page, is one of those self-starters who is a visionary tech entrepreneur. He is a co-founder of Google, the largest search engine in the online world. Just like many other wealthy people, Larry Page started his journey from a regular middle-class background. But you know what? He had this incredible thirst for knowledge and an unstoppable spirit, and he managed to build up a net worth of over $112 billion. Can you believe it? Have you ever noticed how in cities like Rio and Mumbai, there are such stark differences between the rich and the poor? It's like you can see both extreme wealth and extreme poverty side by side. Have you ever thought about what makes wealthy people different, besides just having more money? Both rich and poor people have to go through the same city streets, compete for similar jobs, and live through the same 24-hour day. But you know, there are people who struggle with money worries, barely ends meet. And then there are those who have so much wealth that it would be almost impossible to spend it all in one lifetime. What exactly separates someone who becomes incredibly wealthy throughout their life from someone who always struggles with money? Let's use the stories of our rich friend David and our not-so-wealthy acquaintance Jake as examples. I'll use their stories to explain the key differences in their habits, so you can learn from them and develop successful behaviors in your own life. To give you some context, it's important to know that both David and Jake have similar IQs, grew up in middle-class families, and live in the same city. Basically, both options are pretty much the same and don't really have any clear advantage over each other. But you can really feel the huge difference in their financial situations. When David and Jake come home from work on a typical Monday evening, they make very different choices. Jake is so exhausted from his day that he just flops down on his sofa and gets totally sucked into binge-watching the newest TV show everyone's talking about. You know, even though his boss keeps reminding him how important it is to read more for career development, he just can't resist the temptation of binge-watching his favorite show when a new season comes out. On the other hand, David has a different approach to his free time after work. As soon as he gets home, he quickly turns on his laptop and dives right into his studies. David is hard at work reviewing content for an upcoming exam as the clock keeps ticking. Oh, by the way, David already has an advanced degree and a bunch of professional qualifications, but he still can't get enough knowledge. He spends countless hours every night improving his skills and getting more credentials to boost his career. David has found a lot of inspiration from this tycoon named Robert Sterling. He's really impressed by the fact that Robert spends a whopping $500,000 every year on improving himself. David thinks that if successful people find it worthwhile to continuously invest in learning, then he should adopt a similar mindset. So basically, the main difference between rich people and those who are struggling financially comes down to how dedicated they are to learning throughout their lives. So, the next day at work, Jake was totally surprised when he found a small bonus of $100 in his envelope. It was way less than what his coworkers got. Jake is feeling really upset, so he decides to talk to his supervisor about it. He reminds his supervisor that he's been working there for a whole decade. But then his boss fires back, pointing out how Jake never wants to work longer hours or help his coworkers, and how his productivity has been decreasing every year. In another part of the city, David is totally focused on his project when his manager comes up to him. David is practically speechless as he opens the envelope and finds a huge bonus of $10,000 with his name on it. David is feeling really grateful as he listens to his manager acknowledging all the hard work he's been putting in lately. But the really impressive thing is that David's recent project saved the company a whopping $1 million in operational costs. So, this bonus is just a small way for the company to show how much they appreciate his amazing work. The second difference is that rich people focus on selling value, while those who are not as well off often end up trading their time for money. Jake is really looking forward to Thursday because it's payday. Another week is starting and he can't wait to get his hands on that paycheck. As soon as he gets his paycheck, he quickly heads to the bank to take care of his expenses. He pays his rent, utility bills, and the regular income tax installment without wasting any time. But when Jake looks at his finances at the end of the month, he's disappointed to see that he doesn't have any savings and his bank balance has gone down a little. He's just sitting there, scratching his head, totally clueless about how quickly his money is disappearing. On the other hand, David has a unique way of managing his finances. When he gets paid, $500 automatically goes into a special savings account. Once David has made sure he's saved enough each month, he takes care of his mortgage, utility bills, and taxes as required. And as he looks over his finances at the end of the month, he can't help but smile with satisfaction. He's really smart about saving money, so his savings just keep growing and making him even wealthier. The third difference is that wealthy people usually prioritize their own financial well-being, while those who are not as well off tend to prioritize their monetary needs last. So picture this. Jake is just chilling in front of his TV one evening, totally engrossed in whatever he's watching. And then, out of nowhere, this super cool commercial for a brand new high-definition television catches his eye. They're selling it for $1,000, and let me tell you, Jake is absolutely hooked. Jake is in a bit of a pickle with his annual entertainment gadget budget. Oh, and he's been checking out the newest PlayStation 2. It's priced at $500. It doesn't seem like he can afford to get both right now. He's kind of regretting that his employer didn't give him a bigger bonus. It would have been nice to be able to buy both gadgets. So, get this. David totally aced his recent exam, and you know what he decides to do? He's like, I deserve a reward for this, can you believe it? He's also really interested in the newest TV and PlayStation options. Just like Jake, he saved up $1,000 to splurge on these cool gadgets this year. But instead of feeling limited by his budget or complaining about his circumstances, David tackles the situation with an entrepreneurial mindset. He's thinking about how he can come up with the extra $500 needed to buy both things. So David sees a great opportunity and decides to use his expertise to take on a freelance consulting project. This project not only helps him with his money situation right now, but also shows how much he believes in relying on himself and being creative to get what he wants. The fourth distinction is that people who have wealth tend to have a growth-oriented perspective, while those who are not as well off might have more of a static worldview. Jake really loves getting a Frappuccino from Starbucks every day. It's like his little moment of peace and comfort. This little luxury gives him a break from the boring routine of his job, giving him the sugary boost he needs to get through his work hours. Paying just $5 a day for this comforting routine feels like a small price to pay, don't you think? Oh, it's quite interesting. David just walks right by that Starbucks without even looking twice. He prefers to get his coffee for free at his workplace instead. I have to admit, this free coffee might not have the fancy taste of Starbucks, but the money you can save makes it worth the trade-off. If David decides to skip spending $5 every day for a whole year, he'll end up saving $1,500. Oh, this tidy sum? It's actually set aside for a super fun, all-inclusive trip to Mexico with his buddies. This act of delayed gratification isn't just about being frugal, but it represents a broader principle that David has embraced. He once read a study from Temple University that really shed some light on this for him. So it turns out that things like profession, education, where you live, and even your gender used to be important factors in determining wealth. But now, it seems like being able to resist the temptation of instant gratification and focus on long-term rewards is becoming a really important trait for building wealth. This trait is actually more important than age, race, ethnicity, and height when it comes to predicting success. David's decision to skip the fancy latte becomes a no-brainer when he thinks about how amazing it will be to relax on a Mexican beach. The fifth point is that rich people actually get ready for economic downturns and uncertainties, while those who have less money rely a lot on just one source of income. When the economy gets tough, businesses usually cut down on their number of employees as a way to save money. So, Jake is just going about his day, scrolling through social media and doing his work when suddenly his boss drops a bombshell on him. He's been laid off. Jake is feeling pretty down right now. He's starting to question whether he was wrong about the whole idea of having a stable job. On the other hand, David is dealing with a similar situation. But let me tell you, Jake's departure was completely different. During a really intense exit meeting, David's boss went into great detail about all the layoffs they had to make before they finally decided to let David go. It was a tough decision for them. Even though David is going through a tough time, he's handling it with grace. He's grateful for the chances he's had and wants to reassure his ex-boss that he's doing okay financially. Oh, David has always known that jobs can be quite unpredictable. To reduce this risk, he decided to take on 2 different ventures right after starting his career. He started an online business and also made regular investments in dividend stocks. Now, thanks to these smart decisions, David can stay financially stable even without a regular paycheck. The sixth distinction is all about how the affluent folks focus on building networks and seeking out opportunities, while those who are less fortunate tend to get stuck in self-pity and a lack of progress. After getting fired, Jake is feeling really down. He's been talking to his friends who are also feeling pretty hopeless, and it's been helping him cope. When they get together, they often complain about their bad luck, the tough economy, and they can't help but envy those lucky few who always seem to avoid any financial troubles. They keep going in circles, talking about past problems instead of looking for ways to fix them. Oh, by the way, something completely different is happening at David's place. After losing his job, David decides to gather his closest friends for a comforting meal in the evening. During dinner, David casually tells everyone that he lost his job recently, but he also mentions how he's got other sources of income to fall back on. The atmosphere here isn't sad. It's full of possibilities. Hey, it sounds like your entrepreneurial friend sees a great opportunity for David to join his growing construction business. He's even offered David an executive role. So, I was talking to another friend the other day and we were reminiscing about all the projects we've worked on together. And you know what? They actually suggested something pretty interesting. What if we started our own consulting business together? David doesn't see the room as a place for sympathy, but rather as a space full of potential. The seventh major difference is that the super rich folks out there have a way bigger chunk of the world's assets than they should. It's kind of unfair, you know? In today's fast-changing world, it's really important to grasp the reasons behind why some people have a lot more wealth than others. There are so many reasons why there's such a big gap between the rich and the rest of us. But one thing that's pretty obvious is that success tends to build on itself. The wealthy keep getting wealthier by investing, using their resources wisely, and making connections. Imagine this. If you were lucky enough to go to a fancy dinner party with Jeff Bezos or Warren Buffett, you wouldn't just chat about everyday stuff like the news or the weather. Oh, it's all about investments, business strategies, and emerging markets, and stuff like that. Surrounding yourself with wealthy and smart people can give you really valuable insights and opportunities. That's why people say, it's not just about what you know, but also who you know. But you know, these statistics aren't just about how successful the world's billionaires are. They really show how much inequality there still is all around the world. You know, it's really mind-boggling when you think about it. Just 9 people having as much wealth as half of the entire population on this planet. It really makes you wonder if we need to take a step back and reevaluate our global financial system, and maybe even our societal structures. Don't you think? Thanks for joining me on this journey exploring the striking differences in wealth around the world. If you found this helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more interesting insights. See you next time. Just remember, keep exploring and learning about the world and how you fit into it.